Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we have the Nation Safe Drivers panel. And Ted, so many opportunities to bridge F&I with roadside assistance.
I know our audience, Sarah, is watching and seeing some good friends here on the show. I want to welcome back our great colleague and friend, Anthony Giagnacovo at NSD, and John Michener. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony, great to see you. I know a lot of the folks watching know you throughout the industry, and congratulations on the good work, Anthony and John, that you folks are doing at NSD.
All right, appreciate that, Ted. Thank you.
Well, Anthony, it's incredible to really hear all of the success that NSD is having. But it's for our audience today, and we're talking a little bit more about the roadside component and how it fits within the F&I offering. And I'm curious, how do you see roadside increase the overall product value for the dealer and the customer, and how does this ultimately impact fixed operations?
Great point and good question there. Well, most dealers still treat roadsides like a throw-in in most cases, and that is a mistake in many sides of the way of looking at it. Roadside is an entry point back into your ecosystem, and that's the way it should be thought about. Every event is a chance to capture the customer and bring them back into the service lane. If you take a look at the Cox Automotive's study that's come out, dealerships' share of service visits has dropped from 33% to 29%. So the market's growing, but the dealers are losing share. So when you think about that, what do you need to do? A roadside event is one of the highest value entry points you have because this isn't a routine maintenance. This is an urgency-driven requirement. So when structured right, roadside becomes a feeder into the fixed ops, not a cost center. It protects your share and the driver's real revenue. So this is a true component that drives revenue and that drives retention.
John, this really makes a lot of sense because with fixed operations departments, roadside is a big factor for what may happen that's unpredictable with the customer's vehicle.
Yeah, and to what Anthony was even saying, these products, especially in the F&I box, they're designed to protect that customer, at their biggest time of need. And too many times we miss that opportunity to drive that customer back to the selling dealer to actually exhibit what that service department can do for that customer and what that level of service is, because they end up getting taken to somebody else's facility, and that you lose that control to make sure that customer's taken care of. So when those two pieces are put together, the customer experience is increased tenfold, and really that control to make sure they're taken care of no matter what's going on is back in the dealer's hands, and that moves that into a long-term relationship.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, because the customers don't remember the sale, they remember when something goes wrong. And that roadside moment is just a real brand test. And, again, looking at all the stuff that we're reading and seeing out there, service retention can nearly double, and I say double, a customer's likelihood to repurchase if done properly. So to John's point, a breakdown handle becomes a loyalty moment, not a lost moment.
That's a great point, Anthony. I love that. You mentioned service retention. You both mentioned customer experience, all top of mind for the audience watching today. Anthony, let me come back to you. What impact, you've told us a little bit about this, does a strong roadside program have on that customer experience and on their long-term loyalty?
Well, that's a real good point because a lot of people are always thinking about the margins and the margins in the product, but the real value comes downstream. So again, if I can cite the Cox Automotive study, each lost service customer will cost them $12,000 in lifetime value. So think about that. $12,000 if someone decides to say, I don't want my car serviced in your dealership, I'm going to take it somewhere else. Now connect that to roadside. So the average RO tied to a roadside event typically lands between about $800 to $1,200 range, and it's often higher. And again, depending on the vehicle and so forth. And the reasons are pretty simple. These are not maintenance visits, these are failure events. So, no start, breakdown, tows, safety related issues. They're all urgency. There's no price shopping at the time. It's repair are often required in a bundle. So, you capture the event, you're capturing more than just an oil change. You're getting a high value repair opportunity. And if you don't do it, someone else is capturing that.
John, your
John,
thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I actually want to add to that because those emergency events are so critical that they are, taken care of immediately and, the customer's taken care of. The other side of it, and it's something that we all understand, but we don't capitalize on it too many times, is that service sells. And what
Mm.
I mean by that is
Yeah.
they have access to this roadside network. It's part of what they're doing today, but are they utilizing it to full effect? They can use that same network as a concierge service to take care of their customers. And that drop off, that, what dropping off a loaner to them at work and picking up their car to have the repair work done, all of those things we don't think of because we think of roadside in the traditional sense. And there's so many different layers that you just need to open up and really figure out, okay, this is where we can make an impact with our customers that bring them back to us again where we can take care of them.
John, you highlight a really great point with, again, just maintaining that retention cycle. And one of the challenges that a lot of dealers, leave traditionally roadside assistance to is, it's part of maybe the OEM's original, purchase program when the car is a brand new vehicle. But then what about down the road once the vehicle is out of that manufacturer's warranty? So, John, I'm curious, what are the financial benefits to a dealer when roadside is structured correctly within their F&I portfolio?
So the biggest thing that as far as in those F&I products, and I'll focus on those specifically, if you are utilizing F&I products to take care of your customers, that you also have access to that roadside network that is embedded in it. It's not just a piece that they threw in there to say that they've got roadside, but you actually have access to it and that you have control over it. Then in those events, and we even touched upon this earlier, you can set up parameters that if it happens within 25, 30 miles or whatever that case may be, then those customers get driven back to your service department. And we've already talked about how much each person, each service ticket, what that is and what that means to the service department. And the studies have shown that the highest retained revenue is in service and in F&I. So when you have both of those working so closely together, where the F&I products, you control that aspect of where that repair is done, that increases the revenue in the service department and the overall book for the dealership.
And again, I mean, if I just add a little more to that, because I think John's spot on, to take that even further, too many dealers treat F&I like a menu option, and that's a little outdated. We'll say F&I should be a life cycle strategy. And again, we're in a market where customers are holding on to their vehicles a lot longer. And Sarah, you said something really important. The Cox Automotive Report demonstrates again, over 60% of people are now keeping vehicles 5 years plus. The average age of disposing of a vehicle now is 10 years. And more important, I'm finding is that 74% of those shoppers are planning to delay any purchase right now because of the challenges they see out there. That means the real value is not just at the point of sale; it's over the life of the ownership of the vehicle. Every product should answer one question in our mind, and that is, does this keep the customer connected to me after the sale? If it doesn't, then you're not driving retention or service traffic, and it's not strategic to your business.
That's a great point. I like that. John, let me come back to you. How should dealers be thinking about F&I products?
Well, so first off, they should be thinking of them not just in the F&I box. And why I put it that way is that there's missed opportunity. There's after the sale programs, but even outside of that, there are products today that can be utilized in the service drive that are why service here type of products. And again, if we're not looking for those ways, and if they're not looking at F&I products differently, and what I mean by that is just because it's been done one way and sold a certain way for the last 10 or 15 years, it doesn't mean that it needs to be done that way today. And we get in these, I mean, I've been in the industry for too long. I told somebody today, I've actually been around it over 40 years, going back to, when I was a kid, because I'm that young.
Yeah.
But my point is that we get in these ruts and we're not really looking at what we can utilize the programs for. And if you're not stopping and looking at the products that you're offering to your customer today and making sure that you're using every aspect of that product to take care of your customers and to drive them into your store or your service department, then you're missing out. And you need to be partnered with somebody that will sit down and do that with you to make sure that you're taking advantage of every opportunity that you have.
Anthony, let me come to you on that same question because our audience, our dealers have been telling us for some time now, okay, that F&I products are a very important part of that customer experience in fixed operations, particularly in service.
100%. I mean, John pointed out well, F&I sells the product and sometimes fix, or too often now, fixed ops never sees it. Well, when you think about it, fixed ops is the growth engine. And again, as the studies say, service and parts revenue have grown to over $9 million per dealership on an average. But the dealers are getting smaller pieces of that growth, and that's the problem. So alignment is the answer. When roadside event happens, fixed ops should know it immediately, and they should be ready to be serviced those customers. That's how you turn a one-time buyer into a long-term relationship. And John said it best, why service here? And when we look at this from a holistic point of view, we are looking at it from everything of what the fixed ops does to drive the continuous operation of bringing that customer back into the dealership, be it for service, be it for trade-in, be it for whatever it is. But you're driving that relationship and building that long-term relationship that drives more and more business to you.
John, I want to unpack something that Anthony just said because one of the biggest challenges from the customer perspective, again, is that experience, that transition from F&I into ownership. And there is some fragmentation that happens when, in the customer's mind, they're thinking about their F&I manager as the person and the individual that helped structure these packages and maybe sold them to them at the point of sale. But then now they have that relationship with the service department and that service advisor, and questions come up. So the customer is left kind of wondering, okay, who do I ask questions about and who do I go to for this? So how can F&I and fixed ops work together to create a consistent customer experience from sale through ownership?
It's like you were reading my mind there because I was thinking about what we're talking about here. And one of the key aspects to this within any dealership. So no matter what products you use, what your processes are, there has to be true buy-in from everybody in the dealership. And everybody has to understand why. If they don't, then they inadvertently will say something that devalues what the dealer's trying to do. And we used to talk about the fact that every time there was a door swing, there's a dollar amount on top of that door swing. And how are we going to capitalize on that? And that goes from the greeting to the salesperson to F&I to the parts counter to the service department. And there has to be training that really emphasizes consistency throughout. So for that customer, yes, they've built that relationship with the F&I person, but they should feel comfortable with everybody within that dealership because everybody's speaking the same language. And if there's not that drive from the top, you end up going, oh, well, I'm going to go back and talk to them over there because I don't know who that is. But when everybody's saying the same thing, that comfort level just really is throughout the dealership. And then that customer is good talking to anybody, and they'll even stop somebody walking down a hallway. Hey, I need this. Can you help me? And you just start seeing that's the customer that's coming back because they see everybody's there for them.
If I can add to that, Sarah, because John eloquently puts it, but there's a piece in the middle that needs to happen, and that's that the supporting partner that you have in there, the NSDs of the world type of thing that have to be there to support them, educating them, training them, making it easy to use, having the FAQs, having the learning systems available. You have to have all of that. That technology has to play into there, using things like AI to accelerate claims when they have to be brought in through or processed. Those are really important elements as well.
We're speaking today to Anthony and John from Nation Safe Drivers, one of the leaders in our industry. Gentlemen, I have a question to follow up for both of you. And John, if it's okay, I'll come to you first and then Anthony. Uh, John, what should a dealer right now in our industry, here we are approaching the middle of 2026, what should they be measuring to understand if their F&I products are increasing that customer lifetime value, not just that initial front end profit, if you will?
Sure. Well, so one of the big key indicators, and you can get this with any administrator that you're working with, or you should be able to, and that's the number of transient claims that are going to other dealerships of your customers. So you pull that type of reporting and you know whether you're being effective or not. I would say that's the number one item that you should look at first. And then you start looking at the number of the contracts that you are selling in the F&I box, and then the number of the times those customers are coming back into your service department, because you're tracking that. And then the lastly, or not last, but the third item in that is really looking at, okay, do I have the right products that specifically are bringing those customers, at least introducing them to my service department? Because then you can build on it, but you got to make sure and go back and, okay, track, are these customers that are buying this product showing up in my service department?
Anthony?
Oh, that's well said. And Ted, you said it best. I mean, if you're only measuring penetration and front end gross, you're really missing it. You should be measuring things like retention into service, RO generated from roadside events. Take that into consideration. Average RO value from those events. And what I think the most important part is the customer lifetime value, because the reality is that if you're using roadside as we talked about today, the roadside driven ROs are some of the highest value repair opportunities you have in the service lane. That's non-disputable. But also, service customer is 2 times, and I mean twice, more likely to repurchase than a non-service customer, by the way. So the metrics that matters is not what you sold, but whether the customer came back.
Anthony, Nation Safe Drivers, powering what moves you, okay, as it says on the screen. You're really, your reach in the industry is really, really powerful and amazing. You shared some of that with me when we met earlier this year at the NADA in Las Vegas. I don't know if you want to share some of that, but I didn't know this. I didn't realize it. What an impact Nation Safe NSD has on the industry.
Well, and it has. I mean, Nation Safe Drive has been around since 1961. We actually invented the ancillary products way back. We were the first in the market with such. We were creative. We're very outgoing. We're a very large organization. We have 2 basic pillars that we call. That's the F&I products that John articulated so well. And then we have the roadside products that combined together offer a whole bundle. But I'd like to finish by saying, and John can add on to this, is dealers don't lose customers at the point of sale. They lose them when in the moment they're not there. Roadside is how you are able to help and show up when it matters most. And that's an important aspect.
Love it. Sarah, great information. And again, welcome NSD to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And looking forward to hearing a lot more as we work our way through the year.
Thank you.
Lots of incredible information shared by both Anthony and John today. For our audience that wants to learn more, at the bottom of the screen, Nation Safe Drivers, go nsd.com is where to go. And John and Anthony and Ted, incredible information. I learned so much today.
And I know as our audience recognizes John and Anthony, I know they're both very active on social media and on LinkedIn in particular. So reach out, and NSD can really, really make a big difference for our organization's dealers. John and Anthony, thank you so much for everything, and for everything you do for the industry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody, Nation Safe Drivers here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.